Ivy Valentine subscribes to Mark Yoon, so should you. Enjoy your treat!
Today is the next part in our Timeline Differences series, where we take a look at the old timeline and compare them to the new timeline. But to get right ahead, we are going to be talking about Maxi today, who surprisingly does have a lot of differences that he did from his old timeline. A lot of differences are always small, but we're going to jump right into this just so we can see how the outcome of the future games are going to be contributed to by this change. Of the Soul Calibur Golden Trio, Maxis Story is the one with the fewest number of changes between the two timelines. In the old timeline, Maxi was the son of Ryukyu merchant who was restricted only to sailing his merchant ship to the various shores along Japan's coasts. His father also raised a boy he adopted named Kiam, who Maxi viewed as a brother and who would later become an invaluable member of Maxi's crew later on in his adulthood. Maxi was already gifted with hand-to-hand martial arts, but one day was taken on as a student by a man who went by Zhang Wu to learn the art of the nunchaku. Of note here, Zhang Wu was an alias used by Li Long, and the skills and teachings he got from Zhang Wu, quote-unquote, followed him from then on. Maxi's father's dying wish was for Maxi to take his merchant ship and sail the world with Kiam. Maxi decided to then become a freelance pirate, and his crew were friends he made along the way. While out on the sea, Maxi's ship spotted another ship incoming and assumed them to be hostile and sunk it. When they realized that they had made a mistake, they threw objects overboard that could help the crew of the ship float back to the shore. That ship belonged to Huang, who developed a grudge against Maxi. Nothing ever came of this rivalry, however. One day while in India, Maxi's crew encountered a traveling monk named Killick. It was on this same day that Astaroth led a horde into town and slaughtered Maxi's whole crew, but not before Khayyam was able to ask Maxi to escort Killick to his destination. Maxi swore he would do as Khayyam requested. However, he made another vow that he would set his path for the majority of the story. He vowed to kill Astaroth as revenge for the death of his crew, his newfound family. For more details on Maxi's involvement in Killick's story, I advise you to watch through the timeline comparison video about Killick. After Killick and Changhua went ahead, Maxi faced off with Astaroth and successfully killed him. However, Astaroth's master Pangea, also known as Ares, the god of war, was not happy that his golem had been struck down. So he struck the ground beneath Maxi, forcing it to crumble and sending Maxi down into a chasm, and then washed away by an underground river. Before the events of Soul Calibur 2, Maxi was found by the members of a nearby village and then nursed back to health. However, he was disabled beyond repair and there was no way for him to go home in his present condition. But with his revenge having been accomplished, he decided that it was okay with that and accepted the village would be his new home, until he heard whispers of a man with a giant axe wandering around for 4 years later. His quest for vengeance started up anew, and he sought out the village healer to see if he could be made well enough to go after this man. The healer performed a procedure that restored Maxi back to his full strength and physical ability, a procedure that involved embedding strange shard inside Maxi's body. Maxi departed on his revenge quest once again, unbeknownst to him that the shard of soul edge lodged in his body, and with the memories of Killick and Changhua wiped. Maxi's new timeline counterpart is almost the exact same story beats with very few changes. There are no mentions of quote-unquote Zhang Wu in his biography in this timeline, but that does not necessarily mean that Zhang Wu was absent from his life either. The detail has not yet been touched on as of yet. Soul Calibur 6's main story ends with Maxi collapsing after having killed Astaroth, making it sound like he too had died. However, Libra of Souls has side quests that shed light on what became of him after. I thanked them both and asked where Maxi was. Their smiles then faded.
We got separated during a fierce battle. He took on a powerful enemy alone so that we could escape.
When we went back for him, all we found was his nunchaku.
Maxi's tough. I'm sure he'll be fine. But if you hear any rumors, let us know, okay?
I assured her that I would. Where we end with Maxi's story in the new timeline is exactly where he was before Soul Calibur 2, with him in care of villagers after having endured massive damage to his body. However, just because very little changes in this story does not mean that his story going forward won't be altered. Though some of the details are not completely changed from the old timeline, and he seems to be the most similar thus far to what we actually see in the prior timeline, that also might be due to the fact that he didn't have much in the way of what was going on before that time, even though a lot of his story was actually wrapped up in with some differences between like Killick and other things. Though I would say there is one major difference that wasn't touched on in this. That's his sexuality, which I know in the previous timeline, Maxi was shown to be gay, but in this timeline, it seems that that's actually been wiped away. We're not addressed as of yet, and it seems that he has a different relationship with some of the crew members that he had in the prior timeline. So that's like the only difference I can see without being super confirmed about that. Maybe just haven't touched on it yet, but a lot of people do have different timelines and different stories in this new timeline, so maybe that's just an aspect of the story that was touched upon. Now, I will say that Layla did another great job with doing a lot of research for this video, and I do want to give her thoughts, so be sure to check out them right now.
Maxi, I think, is one of the instances where we can lean more on what the old timeline wrote for him to speculate what happens going forward. Given that the last we hear of him is that he was taken to a village to be healed after his battle with Astaroth, I don't think it would be so far-fetched to think that he would once again have a Souled Shard embedded inside of him. Given that the Souled Shard was a big driving force for his story between Soul Calibur 2 and 4, with his lust for vengeance, and how he almost completely lost himself and his sanity in the process, to speculate that that road is completely avoided in this timeline would, in my personal opinion, take away everything that made Maxis Story. But even then, I still don't think that that means Maxi won't have changes going forward, especially because of how much importance the end of Season 2 places on Shard Collection. I could see it potentially being that, just like the old timeline, Astaroth is reconstructed and Maxi is once again going after him, with the Souled Shard embedded inside of him, and now he has a target painted on his back because of the Swords and Shepherds. Or maybe with how the Swords and Shepherds were talking about wanting the Souled Shards to ripen, I could see them maybe trying to fuel his revenge quest and his downward spiral before trying to harvest it from him.
And thank you guys for watching the video. And in the last video, the question was asked, who will be the next timeline difference next? And it actually shows Sophitia winning with 41%. So out of this poll of 230 votes, we will run another poll today with the remaining 3 characters to see who's going to be done after that. And I think we're actually going to do Sophitia and Cassandra together because they intertwine a lot. And that video might actually be a little bit longer, so stay tuned for that. Also, thank you everybody for watching, and look at your comments from the last poll on the screen now, or as I was just reading the tab. And any and all thoughts are always welcome in the comment section down below, guys. And as I always say, I love it, thank you.
And thank you.